Good morning. Good morning. All right, it's 3 minutes after 9 o'clock. How you doing, snow lovers? Hope all is well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. A little early today because I have to leave a little early. I know. Busy. Lot to cover. So we're going to go through an update on tonight's Aurora Borealis. Everyone's talking about that. I know you guys have seen the images. Go ahead and type now if you saw it last night and where you're at too. And which color was the prominent one you saw, because that is something we'll talk about as well. And then we'll get into the extended outlook to cover the warm-up and the stormy setup for next week. And yes, I know, when is Snowmageddon coming back? All right, we'll come back to that here in just a second. Let's get into the snowboard this morning. You know what? I didn't really change it. I decided to keep it the same because I think it's still fair that at some point Thanksgiving week we will have a flip back to winter. I just don't know where in the week it'll be. It could be early Thanksgiving week, could be late Thanksgiving week, could be even after Thanksgiving into the first couple of days of December. And I know you're saying, well, Brian, it could be February. It could be, but I doubt it. And I'll explain why. I think it's going to be certainly sooner rather than later that we're going to be dealing with this mess. So we'll circle back to that coming up as we evolve through the morning as well. All right, the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. Last night, everyone most of you should have seen red. Some may have seen green. Red is mostly what we see at our latitude, where Kentucky and Indiana are. Typically, as you go more toward the poles, just because the atmosphere is different as you head up. The poles themselves, because the magnets we got, the poles themselves, North and South Pole, absorb majority of that energy, solar wind coming in from the sun. And this is a pretty impressive geometric storm we're talking about that's coming through the area. And it, I think it was 2-3 years ago. Maybe it hasn't been that long. It was an impressive show. This beat that last night for sure. Now, will we beat it again tonight? That's the big question. Last night, a lot of you saw pinks and reds. That's the most common at our latitude. Green is a little more common as you get into the northern United States, Alaska, Canada, into the Arctic. That's why you usually see green when you see the images of the icebergs in Alaska and polar bears sitting back and watching it and staring. That's the more common color. But when you have a very intense storm like we had last night, we did manage to get some green hues that were showing up right on the horizon, depending on how your view was, especially. But it did show up in our area, which is pretty impressive. I don't think I've ever seen that, to be honest. So will we go through this again? Well, here's the thing about how this is playing out for the second surge here of solar wind. This is going to be arriving actually in about 3 hours. It will move in and start attacking Earth, if you will. Sometimes you can get, by the way, sometimes satellite and sometimes cell phone disruption, nothing major, but there can be some weirdness that happens when these solar storms take place. Now, it hits at around noon, 1 o'clock today, but it will continue to keep throwing itself at Earth here all the way through this evening. So that's the reason why we can't see it when it's hitting here at lunch. Obviously, we have to wait until the sun sets. So that's why we got to wait till this evening. Now, the viewing line for the areas you're able to see it just walking out your door versus using your phone to take a picture of it and being able to see the hues, especially the pinks and the reds. At that point, that line did shift a little bit more north with this one compared to what we had last night. And this is an ever-changing setup. In many cases, we only get like 30-minute heads up on some of the data that's been coming in today. So it wouldn't surprise me this may change, but I think right now, likely north of our viewing area, a little more of an impressive setup to view. But still, we have some ability to see something, I think, here tonight. But how intense it would be, I don't know yet. And the science best minds out there are working on it. But it's still listed as a G4. So way up there on the scale for impact for tonight. So stay tuned. That's a bet. I know it's not very helpful info, but at least if you missed it last night, you do have another chance again tonight. So stay tuned. Again, wait until the sun gets a little lower. You don't have to wait until it's completely dark. Just as long as the sun sets, you should start seeing hints of the hues and the colors in the distance there. But don't wait until 10 and 11 o'clock tonight. For a couple of reasons. One, the solar wind will start decreasing by that point. And two, we will start to get some high clouds that will begin to flow in to the area. You see the outlook for tonight already kind of hinting that may be possible. So anyway, we'll keep you updated. Pay attention to social media. Something tells me you're going to know about it at the same time we're all going to, because it has been, I don't know what was getting more attention last night on social media, the Cards and Cats game or the Northern Lights. It was close. It was close. I'm sure you Cards fans out there probably disagree, but it was close. Anyway, just want to at least mention that we're watching it. At least we had the clear sky. I mean, that's step one to be able to see something, right? You got to have a clear sky. So that's in our favor. A little windy today. Yep. A little breezy out, but we're already off to a warmer start than we had yesterday. So we're on the right path. In fact, it's already warmer now than what we were at all yesterday. Yesterday's high was 45 degrees. So we've already beat that by 2. So we're, putting we're putting our pants on one leg at a time. Does that even make sense? I don't know what that means. Looking back at our highs, there's that 45 yesterday. Look at that. I mean, it's like we just were ho-humming along there as we move into October, Halloween, yada, yada, yada. And then boom, right there. The Arctic attack for like 30 hours. And then it left. Very weird setup. Very weird. But the next one, I think, has a little more steam power. So you've been warned. You've been warned, right? Sorry. I didn't mean to ignore your comments. Sorry, guys. Patches, cloud cover, we're looking good. As long as it's right at sunset into about 9 o'clock, I think we'll be in fine shape. Albert, I saw red and a little green. That seemed to be about the mix, kind of both colors. I doubt you would see all green, but you should see it The most extreme case would be a pinkish red to a green. Typically, when you get into the deeper reds, you're about to go into the green on the spectrum part, but most of the time it's a light pink here that we see. You get into the dark reds, real prominent red. Oh, you're close. You're real close, and you may see the combination of the two. But that looks to be our range. Will be a light pink to a dark red. I think will be tonight. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore your questions on that. All right, so let's look forward here, and let me walk you through the current radar trends, which are pretty easy. It's very, very quiet. The wind is not going to be excessive today. It's just going to be breezy outside. Not annoying as yesterday, because yesterday it was windy, but man, that wind was cold yesterday. It made it really tough to be outside for any amount of time, right? Those wind chills were tough to get through. Today, we will be at least warmer, so don't have to worry about the brutal wind chill. We'll actually be above 60 for a couple of hours today. It may not feel like it because of the wind, but baby steps. Now, tonight, you see the high clouds that will begin to roll in. This is going to be late evening into about midnight. How much are they in the area, too, for the overnight will determine how low we go tonight. But if they're thin enough or we stay clear longer than expected, we will certainly have a very frosty night tonight, because the wind's going to relax. Great recipe for radiational cooling. We cool the air down. We're back in the 30s. We go. So, yes, tonight will be colder than what we had last night this morning. So, yeah, even your viewing this evening is going to be a little chilly as you walk outside to look for those northern lights. But Thursday is going to feature a mix of high clouds passing by. Temperature, because it's a colder flow that's coming in tomorrow, it'll kind of balance out where we're at today versus tomorrow with high clouds, about the same number. So where we're at for a high today is likely going to be the same high tomorrow. We'll begin to move that needle up a little more on Friday, but still on Friday, not the best looking sky. It's still going to be mostly cloudy at times, and a few sprinkles will be possible. These are what we call warm air advection type sprinkles, moisture that's coming in, usually very, very light, minor. Not a huge issue for touchdown Friday night or anything like that. Then Saturday, we'll continue the warming trend and get into the low 70s. That's still on tap. Maybe a little breezy, too, on Saturday. In fact, it's interesting that you look at the graph model here. You already see the waves in the clouds hinting at, I can't draw, there we go, turbulence on the model already, which is pretty impressive this far out to see that. So, yeah, a little breezy out. Let's see. You have to talk about the northern lights. My cousin saw the green. There you go. May 2024. Thank you, Tyler. That is what I think I was trying to refer to. I knew it was recent, but I just couldn't remember when. But thank you for reminding me. Some of you are on the northern lights, and then we have Cameron, who's all about snow, looking toward Thanksgiving. I've seen that cold blast. Yeah, all right, we're going to get to it, Cameron. We're going to get to it. All right, let's just, is it next? It is next. Perfect timing, Cameron. As far as the weekend rain chance goes, by the way, not very impressed here. This looks nocturnal. Saturday night, and likely when you're asleep Saturday night before 10 a.m. on Sunday. Yeah, I just don't think it's going to have much moisture. Again, it's a northern branch feature, not a southern branch. So, it just doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with. It's not a flow coming in from the Gulf to feed it. So it will come through mainly moisture starved, and it's moving really fast. So it's very clipper-like as it moves through. So that's the only window I see right now will be late Saturday night, early Sunday. We'll see if the timing of the system changes, because it can. Being a northern branch, it's not uncommon for that to speed up or slow down. So that could still get adjusted, but that's where we stand as of today with that feature. All right, then after that, if you are a big model watcher, I really don't know if there's a whole lot you can pay attention to. Now, I'm going to show you the Euro, as you see here, but I'm going to explain a little bit about the problem that the modeling is going to have. And while you're going to get a very much an emotional ride, a roller coaster here, if you look at every single run, it'll be whiplash, because it's going into a blocking pattern, an extreme blocking pattern potentially. And the modeling just isn't going to be able to figure that out, because they all have their biases on which jet to pay more attention to, the subtropical or the polar, and they kind of just fight back and forth. And the block, when does that really take hold all the way into Greenland and dominate the Atlantic to really cause all these systems to absolutely put the brakes on and slow down. That is all evolving, but I still think it's going to be taking place in phases next week, more so as we head into Thanksgiving week. That I think is likely. But let me just show you where we stand on this, because I do think there's a couple things we can take from the modeling as it stands now. One will be the early week setup for next week. Early week, low pressure moves on by. Now, the Euro has been consistent on the rain snow line being up here into the Great Lakes. That's that blue line going across. GFS takes it right through Indy and Cincinnati and near I-71 for snowfall for Monday night and Tuesday. As of now, the GFS is kind of in its own little world. Even its ensembles are not really backing it up. They're kind of leaving it out to dry there. But it has been consistent, so it's kind of annoying that it keeps doing that. But the JFS has a cold bias, so right now we're leaning more toward the Euro idea, which, again, will have a very tight temperature gradient. This is one of two lows that will zip by Monday night and Tuesday. There is a warm sector. You see right there, the Cape in that kind of red golden color. There is fuel being injected into the system, so there is a chance for thunderstorms. But as always the case, we don't know the exact timing, and that will matter on whether or not we're talking about anything that we need to be worried about or not on thunderstorms. Because if it's in the middle of the night, then it's nothing to worry about. Lightning and thunder, yes, but anything severe, no. So still some questions on how this system will evolve into early next week. Right on its heels, the Euro has system number 2, and I do think there will be 2 next week, early week and late week. The Euro kind of meshes the two timelines very close together. There's not even much of a separation between the two. Other global models that I've looked at have a little more definitive separation, and I think there will be some, but in general, it is going to be a messy week next week. It is going to be active. Don't bet on a lot of sun next week, and also don't bet on a lot of warmth. This is a pattern that can feature warm surges for sure, but we're not going to get a lot of sun. We have a very low sun angle. This is actually getting into the very soon our longest nights of the year coming up. So it's really tough for these systems to do a whole lot. It really comes down to more dynamics than anything. But I do think the late week system will be a little more pronounced to have to watch for something stronger that could roll in out of the Rockies. It will be the first system that will sense the change coming our way with the block. So what the modeling is having a tough time with is when this ejects out from the front range of the Rockies, it doesn't know what to do with it. In reality, if we have the block in full force, it really can't go east. It's going to have to cut north, and it can't even almost go northeast. It almost has to do a complete loop and a U-turn and kind of just hang out in the Midwest. That is going to complicate our timeline for sure, and it will complicate whether or not we see anything stronger or not on the thunderstorm side of this, because obviously if the low hangs back, slows down dramatically, then really your severe risk, I've drawn a lot, sorry, your severe risk is going to be more limited to the Southern Plains and the Mississippi Valley, not so much in the Ohio Valley or Tennessee Valley. So those questions we got to figure out, and it's only because we know what's coming. We can see the groundwork being laid out ahead of all these different systems, but how they all react to what's about to come our way. Like they can see the sign says, caution, curvy road ahead, right turn ahead, whatever the case may be. They see the signs and they're reacting to it, but that matters on how quickly they react to determine our actual weather that we have. So right now we'll go with a fairly active week next week. It looks to be rain. I know the GFS has got snow, but it looks to be rain for us, and it's an issue of rain versus thunderstorms. That's our main challenge that we'll have. Once we get beyond this range, that is when we run into some issues here. And I know the cold air is showing up on the Euro. This is not it. This is not the main one that I'm overly worried about. I think this lays the groundwork down again, and that's the next system that rolls in. You may be hearing a lot about this, and I think since we talked yesterday, it seems like there has been a lot of social media chatter about this change coming our way into November. This is where we run into an issue where sometimes we get too much info and it's bad. Having said that, there are still a lot of signs that we're going to see what we call a sudden stratospheric warming event. And if you remember in their winter forecast, I went into much more of a long narrative. I don't have time today to get into it, but it's all about the polar vortex and how it will weaken. Its weakening is what leads to Arctic attacks that invade lower latitudes, whether it's Europe or into North America. And in this case, it will likely be Eastern North America that will face this. One way we can track that, and just to share a little bit of the science with you guys, this is looking at the wind where it matters when we get to the polar vortex. What are we looking at? Well, what's the line? The yellow line is about your mean here, okay, as it goes to the winter. The stronger the wind, in other words, the more it goes up, the stronger the polar vortex is, typically the warmer we are. The cold air is locked up at the poles. When it goes down and tinks downward, the cold air at the polar vortex is weak and the cold air is on the move and ready to hunt, right? Well, look at what the data continues to show. The red line's where we've been so far. The green is the forecast. And you see as we get into the end of November and December, that green absolutely tinks. That is our first sign that we've had for a while now of what we call a sudden stratospheric warming event. We typically get about 2 of these a winter. They usually lead to everyone talking about the polar vortex coming into the United States at that point. And we typically get them in January and February. And like last year, we actually had one all the way to just before Derby Day. We had to deal with one. To see one this early in November and December would be one for the books. So there's a lot of unknown territory about, well, what exactly will be the end result with this? And that's a good question, because we don't have a lot of data historically to show what this could really mean, especially when it comes to the time of the year being a little early season. But no doubt that is still a very strong signal, and it is very, very interesting. We'll see. Let me show you the 10-day, and I'll get to some of your questions. 60s the next few days, 70s, yeah, a couple degrees. Other side of 70 is fair, really, Friday and Saturday. And then, as I mentioned, the rain chance for the weekend. And then as we get into next week, yeah, we'll just kind of show the spikes in rain chances, but there will be some days that they're gonna spike to probably 100% as we get closer. But a little too early to sniff out the exact timing, so bear with us on that as we fill in the details. All right, so let me see. Hi, Mind. How you doing? Are you excited for December and think we'll have a good chance of accumulating snow? Well, remember, there's a big caution here with getting the polar vortex the weekend and be on the move and settle in the United States, and it could be absolutely cold and dry. I will say one of the years, there's 2 years that are coming up right now that are standing out. One is 1967, which wasn't too bad, and December 2000, which was really bad. In December 2000, we had 1 to 3 inches of snow on the ground for more than 50% of the month, and we did not get above freezing for more than half of the month. The entire second half of December was locked in solid. We were in single digits every single night. So that was really tough. So we had light snows, and we didn't get any big ones, but it was very, very cold. I'm honestly, if this kind of a setup, when I've seen so far, I would lean more in that direction as far as it being cold with light snow than somewhat cold and a big snow, because I don't see the two lining up, but I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point because we've got to figure out the storm track before I can really fully answer that. But I know you're asking anyway, so I'm trying to answer your question, but at the same time, I have to, exercise caution. I think you guys get that. But I do think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So just a word of caution, if there's things you need to take care of around the house, now's the time to kind of keep that in mind and get that resolved while we got these warm temperatures coming our way. And really, if you want to put your holiday decor up, good time to do that with this warm bubble, because next week it's going to be active, more active situation with rain, maybe some storms. So you may not have as many nice days to get out and take care of things, but you will have dry and warm time the next few days. You don't have to turn anything on yet if you don't want to. Although I think it's more accepted now early than it has been before, but you don't have to. But it's a good time I started doing this myself probably 5 years ago, and it works. Boy, it takes so much of the stress off to start working on it. I've had actually lights on my house for a week and a half now. I haven't plugged them in. I just don't want to be up there on my roof dealing with this when it's a wind chill of 5. That's not fun for me, especially as I get older. So take advantage of it. Which say, Kathy, we need a mild winter, even though I love snow. Yeah, the only thing I'm excited about a cold winter is hopefully to kill off all these ticks, mosquitoes, and everything else has been a pain this year. Cameron, I'll get an updated matrix. I should have one on Friday to share with you. I should have one on Friday. All right, everyone looks good. Good. Any other questions I can try to answer? I got to run here, but I just at least wanted to touch base on where we stood today on the extended, and tomorrow we'll chat and we'll see where we are at that point. And I'll try to find some more data to share with you guys too, as there's a lot of buzz out there and it can be overwhelming and it's so far out. So I don't want you guys to get too in the weeds on this, but this is why we do SnowTALK, so we can all vent and talk about it here and hash out all those questions. Okay. All right. I got to run. You guys enjoy the day. It's really be nice out there. Beautiful sunshine out there. Soak it up. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. I will see you guys coming up on midday at 11 a.m. Take care, everyone. And yes, I did test my lights.